Have you met her?
Welcome back to another episode of Have You Met Her? Today we're tackling a myth with the Bearded Viking. And our myth is, if you can function, you're not really neurodivergent. Hello, Mr. Damian Rees.
Hello, thanks for having me on the show.
Thank you for coming along today. So the Bearded Viking, tell us all about that.
The beard, that's a really long story. We haven't got time to do the whole story. But ultimately, I run an AXE venue in Weedon in Northamptonshire. And I teach people on an hour-long session how to throw axes in a fun Viking-themed environment. I look like a bearded Viking, got the beard, and that's how that comes about. But it's very interesting, your myth that we're going to talk about, because I haven't got a diagnosis of anything, but regularly, especially over the last few years, questions have been raised and said. So I'm interested to be here.
Raised by yourself?
No, a couple of people have said a few things, and I've always thought I'm a little bit special, but I'm sure.
You are special regardless, but what have people said?
Sometimes when and I've been on a couple of podcasts, and when I regale my story of my career choices and my life, I literally told that story to somebody. I've done lots of different things, lots of variety. I've always enjoyed variety, but I've never sort of stuck at one thing and just been consistent with it. And I told that story to somebody at networking once, and he said to me, "Are you neurodivergent?" And I genuinely, I didn't know what neurodivergent meant. And I played it off a little bit. I'm like, I don't know, I probably got something. And then I started looking into it a little bit. And then that was a good year or so ago when you told your story. I was listening thinking, oh my God, like that's very similar to a lot of my things. And it's a big buzzword at the minute. There's lots of conversations about neurodivergence. There's lots of stuff on social media. It has got me questioning, actually, some of the behaviors and the traits and the habits and the things that I do, are they just because that's how it is? Or actually, is there something where my brain is wired a little differently from other people?
Is it in recent years that you found things a bit more challenging that you can then relate to the traits for?
No, I think I can look back now and think actually there's a lot of these things that are quite significant and have been present for a long time. It's not just something new that's come up. So I've since learned from chatting with yourself, this is it the justice
sensitivity
about things being right. And I often used to think I had a bit of OCD. I like things neat and straight and tidy. And I do like to be in control of things, and I like things to be straight. I like things where they're supposed to be. And I remember one time I saw a van driving up a one-way street the wrong way. And I sort of jumped out in the middle of the street, which was dangerous. But I had to stop this van because it was doing what it wasn't supposed to be doing. And so experiences like that, historically, I would have just thought, well, is it a bit of OCD? Is it a bit of you just like things neat, straight, and tidy? Now I'm thinking, actually, like, especially with the one-way street incident, is that this just this sensitivity. And there's lots of things now that I can look back to previous examples and go, oh yeah, maybe this is the way my brain works.
Right. So as I've spoken about before, many people can relate to a lot of the traits that we see in neurodivergence because they are just general experiences that people have every day. The thing that comes about, are they significantly impacting you every single day of your life and perhaps hindering your ability to complete daily life, whether that's an employment, whether that's day to day. So it's understanding how it impacts you individually, uniquely to you. So you mentioned before that you're curious about masking. Do you feel like you put on a performance at work? Do you feel like you act differently at work than how you would do day to day when you were on your own, or in an environment where you're perhaps with other people where it's not a professional setting?
My name on my Instagram name, my online name is Damo4Show, which is a bit of a show. And it was actually off a film, and there's an element of this film where it says, for sure. I think it's super bad. Absolutely. When I am presenting something, it is often for show. And I do find myself being different to different people in different environments when, with a partner or with your family or with children, even with the AXE. And I tailor the session for AXE depending on who comes in. So I'm a slightly different person. If I'm teaching a group of 10-year-olds, it's more about safety and confidence and making sure that they're happy, having a fun time. And on the flip side of that, I had a 70th birthday party come AXE, and it's obviously much more respectful, and there's slower games, and I'm putting on a different show, a different version, still me, but a different version of me for the different people. That is tiring. And
that's what I was going to ask you. What do you think how do you feel the impact of that is if you're constantly changing characters to fit what you think the situation should be or who you should be in that situation? How does that make you then feel when you can come home and decompress?
I wouldn't have it any other way. That's how I do what I do, and it's brilliant. But sometimes I then shut the door and I just lie down on the rug and I'm like just exhausted. And I hadn't really considered it to be as much mentally exhausting. It's not a super physical work. But the first time I met you, you told me a short story about yourself with masking, and I was like, oh my God.
Was it a short story though? Because I
Well,
do
that
go
was
on and on forever.
It was a really long story, but the masking bit was short.
Okay.
But there was certain things, but it was when you said that, I thought, oh my God, is this me? Is this what I've been doing here? Am I exhausted? Because part of me is like, well, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm responsible for all my incoming and outgoings. I'm responsible for everything. I have to work this hard. I'm exhausted. I thought, well, this is just how it is. You're running your own business. If you want it to be easier, go and get a 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. But now I'm learning, actually, maybe this isn't just the fact that it's tiring to run your own business. Maybe this is actually you're doing a lot of masking, which is mentally exhausting, which I hadn't considered before. So this is a very early on in a journey for me of learning about why am I the way that I am sometimes. These are the ramifications of things that are going on that I hadn't really dug deep into.
And I tell people a lot about the importance of really understanding yourself to be able to give yourself the help and support that you actually need. There's this idea at the moment that if you start to explore things like neurodivergence, that you instantly put a label on yourself and therefore you shouldn't do that, or people are afraid to go and do that and get the help that would actually help them. So do you think that actually the more you look into things, the more you explore, do the benefits outweigh perhaps the negatives that people feel come along with being neurodivergent or understanding neurodivergence?
I think knowledge is power, right? So the more you know about something, the better. And with a diagnosis, I've not gone for one. I've not had any assessment, so I actually have no understanding of what that would be like. And I'm not here thinking, actually, I should go and do that. That said, some of the learnings I've had, and I'm coming to this Life Lounge to regularly learn more and to find out more, I might get to the point where, oh my God, this all fits so well. Actually, I should go and get a formal diagnosis for further help in whatever fashion that would be. But for now, I'm like, look, I'm 44 years old. I've got to where I am, how I am. I wouldn't want to change anything. And I've often said this. I have had some friends who've been and got a diagnosis and spent a lot of money doing it, or it's took a long time. Actually, for all the good and all the bad and all the highs and all the lows, like that, do I want to change anything? Do I want to, I am enthusiastic about things, and then on the flip side, I'm super tired. Sometimes do I want to change all of that? And I think that's frightening.
I can understand from your point of view what you're saying in terms of being afraid of what it would mean for you, what they would perhaps explore, what they would say, what that would mean for afterwards. Ultimately, because everybody is so unique in their own neurodivergence, different things are going to support different people. And I think it's about reframing it too. It's not going to change. You are who you are. You've always been who you are. Actually, there might be more benefit to getting a better understanding. And that understanding doesn't have to come from going for a diagnosis. If you don't feel like that is relevant for you, that's also perfectly fine to say, I don't want to explore that. There's no one to say that you have to go and get a diagnosis to get the support that you need. So just learning more about yourself surely would have a more positive benefit in the long run, because actually you're still, you're not changing anything, but actually you're putting in support systems for yourself that are going to help you in the long run. And perhaps looking at that, like masking exhaustion, why does that keep happening? What can I do to not feel so drained? What can I do to stop burnout? So perhaps these things would actually have a benefit more to just have a better understanding of it, but you don't necessarily have to go and get a diagnosis.
And that's where I'm at. And I previously would have considered that actually very black and white, and this might be a little bit of how I am, but it's either you have a diagnosis and you get some help, or if you haven't got a diagnosis, you don't get any help.
Yeah.
I didn't realise there's a bit in the middle where actually you can explore and learn all about it.
There is support available without going through that system. I think the reason actually that people feel that diagnosis is the only way to get support is because actual support isn't so accessible itself already, especially if you don't have a diagnosis. So things like PIP, things like access to work, you can absolutely get them without having a diagnosis if you are significantly impacted. But they might become more challenging if you don't, because I think that it's down to the evidence of proving. How do you prove that you are significantly impacted by something without the evidence there to start with? The thing is, like, the help at the end of the day is still not so clear. It still feels very inaccessible to people. I think the more we talk about it, the more we educate organizations, educators, people around us, and give them the view, like what neurodivergence actually is and what that means for people, we can give better support in the long run anyway. So let's talk about the business side for you. What are the parts that that customers don't see that are genuinely hard for you?
Well, I won't tell you that one. They don't see me lying on the rug after the session because I'm absolutely exhausted. They don't see the smile on my face when the 5-star reviews come in. There's a big part of me. I get a lot of reward from what I do, and people's reviews are really important to me. What do they not see? All the behind the scenes. When you're running a business by yourself, it's hard work because you have to do everything, right? You have to do the sales, the marketing, in my arena especially. You know, there's so much to do, and it never stops. It's, you know, from the minute I wake up, I'm thinking, oh, I better post something on social media for brand awareness. From when I go to bed, you know, and I still get email inquiries 11 o'clock at night, half 11. It's just constant, and I don't mind that because I enjoy it, and it's what I choose to be doing. I am checking my emails at night time, and I'm usually throwing accident in the evening and that anyway. So yeah, it's busy, and I don't see the full extent of it. But, you know, but a lot of my customers, some of them come back. But a good proportion of them come back again because they have such a good experience, and they get to know me a little bit more. And I have some regular throwers that come every week, and they've become friends, which is really great.
I think we live in quite a lonely world at the moment, and people struggle to find the environments to be around others that they want to be around. Do you feel like it benefits you having a business that is so people focused? You meet a lot of different people all the time. It must be nice to have that continuous connection with people.
Yeah, do you know what? It's interesting, and again, I don't know if this is just human nature. I like the variety, so I like that there's different types of people every time. I was a prison officer for 4 years, and I was a drug and alcohol worker for 4 years. Both of those environments are really varied. There's something different every day. So is that keeping my attention going? Is that keeping my dopamine levels going? Certainly now I'm doing entrepreneur stuff and running my own business. I've met so many other people that have got so many similar traits. And I remember I did a podcast when I first started with NMBM with Simon Cox. And he was asking about entrepreneur stuff, and neurodivergence came up, and I said to him quite innocently, "Oh, I wonder what the percentage of neurodivergent is in entrepreneurs, because it's got to be a high. It's got to be a high because I think you've got to have a little bit. Like when I go networking, there's other small business owners in the room. I'm like, yeah, we've all got that same drive to want to do something of our own back and different.
But what is that? Yeah, what is that drive though? Because I think you can still be an entrepreneur and not be neurodivergent. You know, it's the drive, I think, for perhaps for neurodivergent people to want to be entrepreneurs usually comes from the frustration of the challenges they experience in the workplace, working for an employer. There's a lot of places that don't offer the support that is needed. So I suppose I would say that's probably more where the neurodivergence comes in. Also, the ability, the creative, you know, thought processes and the ability to think outside of the box and come up with these amazing ideas. Not that other people don't also have that ability, but I feel like we have such a strong passion. That is what drives that. You know what, I see that and I could make that amazing. I could make that, you know, really, really good. Do you think perhaps that's...
I went axe throwing and I thought that it's really good. Just chucking an axe at what's good. I could make that so much better. I think, as I wanted to mention earlier, I think a little bit of it's the risk as well. I think you had that. You don't mind taking the risk to do something that's a bit more, to do something that's different.
Tell me about some risks you've taken. I'm really intrigued now.
I once went to Vegas on a Saturday night on a whim.
What?
On a one-way ticket. Yeah, this was before the Hangover was invented, but basically the Hangover. I think it's my story. So tell me if this has got any red flags for Europe.
Shoot, but remember that I know, and you come from lived experience here.
Any of this lived experience resonates as somebody who may have some problems. So I must have been in my 20s, out having a few a lot of drinks. Is that an ADHD thing? A lot of drinks with my best pal. And we got to near the end of the night, like 10 o'clock. And we were like, where are we going to go next? And it was a case of we could get to walkabout. Vegas came up in conversation. It's like, oh, we could go there or we could go Vegas. And the bartender behind the bar said, you'd never go to Vegas. And that was it. So he literally said, you'd never go to Vegas. And I'm like, what, we're going? So literally got home, credit card, one-way ticket, £400, the stupidest, longest, most horrific flight ever, but it seemed like a good idea at the time. Packed a bag, which I thought had lots of sensible stuff in. When I got there, it didn't. It had 5 credit cards and like 2 pairs of pants. But anyway, got this bag, got a taxi to the airport, Birmingham airport, at like, this must have been 2 or something in the morning. We were drunk. I don't know why they let us on the flight. Must have been different rules back then. This is
way back when. When was this?
20
Oh, okay.
And the flight went from Birmingham to Amsterdam. And when we got to Amsterdam, we had a quick changeover, like an hour to get another flight. And I remember saying to my mate, oh, if we're going to change our mind, now's the time to do it because we're only in Europe. We haven't got so far. So we had another beer and then we just carried on. So then we went from Amsterdam to Minneapolis. And when we got to Minneapolis, I saw a cop with a gun. We were in America. Carried on drinking. Bear in mind, no drugs involved because I've never done drugs.
Thank God for that.
Just drink related. And I was like, we're in Minneapolis. Then we got to LA or Vegas or something. The whole thing was 14 hours to get there. So by the time this has gone from a Saturday night straight to Sunday morning into like a Monday.
In the same place?
In the same clothes.
Wow, okay.
Interestingly, he was wearing my left shoe. I was wearing his left shoe. We'd swap for things. Brilliantly, this is also an era where we only had a disposable camera and there are 3 photos that exist from that whole trip. This was Monday by the time we got there. I phoned my boss, so I can't commute today. I'm in America. I put the phone down.
Okay.
This was once here, by the way. Scandal. I got disciplinary for it and got told up.
And you weren't afraid? You weren't afraid of the implications of work?
A few beers deep by then.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't think about those, right?
No.
When you're keen, when you're focused, when you're in Vegas. We blacked our way. We blacked our way through customs. Like, how long are you staying for? Till we win $1 million?
Yeah, but this was back in the day. It was different back then, right?
And yeah, so it lasted 5 days before I had to come home.
Wow.
Which was
with
amazing.
just 3 pairs of pants.
2 pairs of pants.
Wow. Okay.
If you wear them inside out. That was some days.
Gross.
This is Vegas. I wasn't wearing pants for a lot. My disciplinary from work was brilliant. Right? So sat down with all the big wigs in this thing, got this massive telling off for a time, got it off the record. I don't think he's with us anymore, God rest his soul. But Phil, who'd been a boss there for like 40 years or something, he said to me, Damian, I've managed people for 20 years or whatever it was at the time. I've never heard any story like that ever. That was brilliant. But doing that sort of thing on a whim after a couple of beers on a Saturday night.
I mean, that's extreme.
Has that got any traits?
That's extreme. But your friend went with you as well. Is he neurodivergent?
Maybe.
Maybe. You never know. I mean, we are drawn to people that we connect with. Yeah. But again, I can't sit here and say, yes, absolutely, that's a neurodivergent trait. Risk seeking and risky. Impulsive behavior.
Yes.
Common in ADHD. Because it's giving us the dopamine. It's like an addiction to anything, right? Seeking dopamine is sometimes like seeking an addiction. You can have it to alcohol, drugs, food. So if dopamine is giving us that feeling of euphoria, and we know that something's going to give that to us, whether it's an impulsive thing or not, or crazy wild, we're still going to go and seek it if that's what we're going to do. And perhaps we don't have the thought process in those moments about what the consequences might be. But then is that down to age, or is that down to neurodivergence? Is that because your brain wasn't fully formed yet with all of your...
It was definitely damaging a few. Yeah, I was definitely damaging a few stories on the way there.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, that's some risky behaviour.
That is some risky behaviour. I don't think I've done anything that wild. I was always quite afraid. Now I've definitely been quite impulsive over the last year or so and taken risks, but not to that extent. I want to talk about like the business that you run, what you've created. Where did you suddenly decide, well, that's it, I'm gonna start an accelerating business? Could you even do a 9-to-5? I mean, you've obviously done a 9-to-5 before.
Do you know, well, at the time I was in a 9 to 6, half 6, and it was starting to get a bit later, and I hated it. But being told what to do was not a great. I didn't enjoy what I was doing, and I don't think I have held down a normal job. but I've always been very creative. It's interesting you talked about like creativity and neurodivergence. This job, I fell into this job as much as I've fallen into any other job that I've ever done. I never planned out a route. So not sure if that relates.
Did you know what you wanted to do when you were at school?
No. So whereas most of my friends, they were like, they wanted to get their grades, they wanted to get to uni, they wanted to do marketing or whatever it was. I never had that. I flunked A-levels, went down the pan. I got myself a job and I just fell into job after job after job. And this one came about because I met a guy, Lewis, who's the original Bearded Viking. He had a beard care brand and he set up an axe throwing range as an aside to make sense, right? Axes, Bearded Viking. All fits well. It came about and I completely just fell into it. But all the other jobs that I've fallen into, they all lend themselves quite well to doing what I'm doing now. So those experiences have all helped. Could I sit and do a boring 9 to 5 now? Probably not. Within this role, I come up with creative stuff all the time. And what's brilliant about it is it's creative ideas for the benefit of the business and of me. Historically, like in the job before this, I had so many brilliant ideas, but they weren't listened to or they weren't actioned because it wasn't my business. It wasn't my thing. And I had so much enthusiasm and time for it because maybe it's a hyper focus thing, I don't know, but it was like I'm doing it for somebody else. And I think this is the nature of how some people are. I always think about, in-betweeners and near off the in-between.
Yeah.
Can you swear on this podcast?
Yeah, you can swear.
Neil from in-betweeners, he's happy as a pig in shit. He doesn't really know what's going on, but he's so happy. And I've always been so envious of Neil because I'm like, he's just in his own little world, he's doing his own little thing and he's happy. Whereas my brain is thinking a million different things all the time about everything that's going on and not necessarily as happy as Neil.
Maybe Neil's masking.
Maybe. Be more Neil. Whereas now, what I'm doing, I come up with these crazy games that are real storytelling, Viking history style stuff. And I'm taking people on a journey and I really love creating these things. I can take my idea and make it an actual thing. I take great pleasure in it. Guys love it and they really get involved in it. And it's like, I created that and I'm really proud. I'm like, I did that, but is that because I've got a bit of a creative brain? Is that normal? Or is it a neurodivergent thing? This is the podcast. This is it. Yeah. I'm going to get you to tell me if all these things are neurodivergent.
Well, I can't because I've not got the clinical basis behind things. And remember that traits, because they're not neurodivergent specific, they're just things that everybody has. Because I feel like in your general 9 to 5, actually, you're just following a rule you've been told, you're just following your job role, you don't have as much creative freedom like you said. So actually maybe we turn around as neurodivergent people and that's the reason we say, I don't want to be limited. I'm so justice sensitive that this happens and that's really aggravating for me, or I just can't achieve what I want to achieve. I'm never feeling like I'm meeting that success. So perhaps if I go and work myself, I'll be able to meet the success level that I feel like I can. But then again, do we actually then go and work for ourselves and everything is amazing and everything is rosy? Or do we still find challenges in working for ourselves, but do the challenges outweigh the negatives of working for somebody else?
Good question. It just got me thinking back to some of the other roles that I've done. For example, the putting the tin straight in the shaft. Actually, you can find a job role that suits how you are.
But what happened?
You've got to understand how you are first.
What happened? Why did you leave that?
I actually got poached by another business and they offered me more money.
So if you
maybe I should have not took that job.
So if you were happy just doing what you were doing, do you think that if somebody was just content doing that they would leave?
It wasn't just money. There was more opportunity. It was a better car and that. But I think about being a prison officer, for example, if you have that justice sensitivity. But I always used to just say, I'm a stickler for the rules. And that's just how I thought I was. I thought that's how it was. And that fits quite well, right? If your job is to make sure people follow the rules, that's a good line of work to be in. I only fell into that. I didn't decide, I've got justice sensitivity, I need to be an officer. I just fell into that job role, but I learned, I'm a bit of a stickler for the rules. Understanding yourself and then finding a job. I
think that neurodivergent people can absolutely work a 9 to 5 job. I think the environment around them has to be adapted to be by universal design. It has to be supporting everybody and not just one set of people. But I mean, is that possible? Is it possible to create somewhere everywhere that everybody has a benefit from, or actually, if we realize or start to understand ourselves more and know what doesn't work for us, perhaps we come out of that environment and find an environment that would work for us better.
I think a lot of this, and this is what you do, I think a lot of it is understanding. So as an adult, if you understand what you like, what you enjoy, how you work, how your brain is working, and whatever guise that is, once you understand all of that, you can go and find the right place to put yourself and the right people to hang around.
But how do you understand that? Where does that come from?
That's what you do, right? We come and see you and you tell us all about ourselves.
Right, but we've waited until we're out. We've had to wait until this point.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you, when I was at school, there was absolutely no life skills support. And I always sit and think, if I was more things that I use on a daily basis, would that have benefited me in the long run? Even not knowing that I was neurodivergent, would that have actually benefited me? Because I might have had a better understanding of things in life rather than getting to this age and being like, what the fuck?
But that's a really crazy concept. There you're suggesting that they should teach things to you in school with it.
Yeah, I think life skills.
That's not how that
I think life skills should be taught. Why?
In school, you just get taught to remember history stuff for your exams.
But a lot of the stuff they teach in school, I don't think is necessarily beneficial. Like,
I agree with all of it.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. So I'm like, if
you learn a lot there through your teen, through your adulthood.
Right.
My point was moreover, now I know more about who I am when I've got to 44. And I know for a fact that when I'm 54, I look back at myself now, I go, you were an idiot then, you didn't know nothing. So whereas I think I know some stuff, in 10 years' time I look back, you didn't know nothing. But my point is, I can now go, actually, I know that I don't want to work in a Monday to Friday 9 to 5 telesales role.
Yeah.
Because that doesn't suit me for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you're talking about not necessarily every employer in the land can cater for everybody.
Yeah.
But if, for example, I said, right, well, I'm really creative, I want to be a creative designer, I could go and look at the top 10 companies and go, well, which one of these is more likely to cater for my style of how. But yeah, it's tough because ultimately you've got to know about yourself a lot more.
Right, which should come as you're growing up. If we give people the tool, what about if we asked in schools, what are you passionate about, and targeted our learning to something that we were actually interested in? Perhaps then we would be able to understand the topic better if it was something that we were challenged by, and it was put into something where we could then utilize for life skills in the future. So then we didn't get to the age of 30, 40 and be like, okay, well, now I'm only just finally understanding about myself.
You're over 30. Yes, it sounded like you didn't want to say it.
I'm only 21, okay?
I blacked that I was 28 for at least 12 extra years.
Did you?
Yeah, exactly.
Did it work? Were people like, yeah?
Here's a top tip, right? Yeah, it did actually. If I moisturise tonight, I do pop. And the beard throws people.
Okay.
If I shave this up, I look 28.
I am only 31 and a bit. 32 this year.
Okay. 2 years off.
Well,
30. You're literally 2
years off 30.
Now, mate,
yes,
tell people.
But I hated my 20s. I absolutely feel like the challenges that I've had my whole life impacted me so significantly that I was so lived in this kind of headspace of being afraid and thinking that life was only one way and that you have to do this, and there's no ability to kind of change that and do what you want and be more free flowing. So actually, I think that really hindered my 20s. I know it's not normal, but I'm so happy to be in my 30s and I'm excited. I'm excited to be in this era. I never want to go back to school. I do not understand that when people say that. And I never want to go back to my 20s again.
Years of your life.
Yeah, but I think I'm living I'm in my 20s in my 30s instead. So that's probably why. Oh, so I was going to say, do you feel like running your own business then is freeing, or is it exhausting, or is it both?
It is exhausting. And I think, look, I'm early doors in, I'm 2 years in, and a lot of businesses don't survive past 3. So I was thinking a year's time, 2 years time, 5 years time, will I be able to find a way to make it better? Are the first 3 years, first 5 years of business really tough? Are they exhausting? Absolutely, I believe so. Is it freeing? Yes. I mean, I have complete charge of my diary. So You know, I get to choose when I work, which is just all day, every day. I have a choice.
All day, every day.
All day, every day. But I've always said, you know, when you enjoy what you do, it doesn't feel like work. And
But you must experience burnout then if you're not giving yourself a break.
yeah, regularly. They do it, right? Just wherever you am, burn out a little bit, wherever they are. But no, this is the thing I think I find now, I mean, coming into the second year, or to the end of the second year, actually, coming to the third year soon. You find better ways to be more efficient and manage things. And I've realised this last 6 months, more so than ever, that making time for yourself is important.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've changed my marketing strategy a little bit of late to try and get to the point where I can have a little bit more time off, having that time for yourself, because it is super, super important.
Yeah, I definitely agree that I think that when we work for ourselves, it is important that we do have to have that kind of self-discipline that a lot of neurodivergent people might find a challenge. So therefore we overcompensate and think that we have to be working every single day, and we really, really push ourselves until the point of burnout. But I think it's about looking at what we're achieving, where things are going well, what we need to push, and how we can help ourselves get to that point without the cost of our own like mental health, without the cost of, you know, our energy, and getting to that point where we're beyond exhausted, that we're then so poorly, and, you know, we keep getting all of these like colds and flus and whatever. So I think it's important.
I ain't got time for a cold or flu. That's not happening. I've heard recently a lot, and you've said it a couple of times, but about being compassionate with yourself and actually not being so hard on yourself. And I've kind of like rebutted that. I'm like, but I must be. This is what I should be doing. I should be working hard. I shouldn't be having a day off. I should be doing this. And actually, it is super important. But it's like everything, whether you're neurodivergent or not. This is life learning. Like I'm in my 40s. You're in your 30s. Like there will be people that are older and wiser and had businesses longer than us. Listening to this now and going, yeah, you'll figure it out. Or you should be doing this. You know, maybe I should get a coach. I haven't got a coach. But we're not, I am the first person, I am the first Damian Rees to be doing this, but I'm not the first person to have ever had a business and potentially have some neurodivergence, diagnosed or not. Interestingly, I listened to the hardest geezer, Russell Cook, I think his name is. He's the guy who he runs a lot. Have you seen him? Jim's brother. Runs a lot. He did the whole length of Africa. And I listened to his story, and there were so many similar traits to mine, and even working in the prison and stuff. And I did a little bit of running a long time ago from when he was bad. But it's like we are human beings on this planet. There's loads of us. There's probably somebody out there that's done very similar to yourself or experiencing similar to yourself, although not exactly the same. You know, I'm sure somebody has done what we're trying to do. Someone else somewhere has had an axe around range for 10 years. You know, I've had mine for 2. So the answers are out there.
How does it make you feel when, I know this is a really random question, but how does it make you feel when somebody else like sets up an axe around business? Maybe it's like near you, or somebody else has an idea that you've already like had and have been trying to implement. Because I really struggle with that. Well, if somebody else has done it, then I can't possibly do it because, you know, then somebody else is doing it. So people then wouldn't come and see me. So how does that, like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm very like,
I don't know if you know, but there are other podcasts.
Yeah.
Do you know there's other podcasts?
I am the first podcaster. No one else exists.
You are the only Have You Met?
Yeah, that
podcast.
is true. I'm very
so maybe that's an element of it is everyone else you've done everything, but it's only you can do it this way. So with my axe throwing, only I could do it my way. And literally a couple of places opened up within a couple of months of me opening up, and it's competition. And I thrived on that. I thought, right, I'm going to up my game now, and I'm going to do more, and I'm going to be better. And that was a motivator for me. And ultimately, you always lean back on, no one else is going to do it like I do it. There could be 10 axe ranges, but if I am one of the unique selling points, and that motivates me to be the best and give the best that I can give. So, and what's the other options? Like, well, I'm not going to do it because someone else has done it.
Yeah.
But that's
self-sabotage.
Yeah.
Me. Yeah. I do that a lot.
Because, only you can do it the way that you do it.
Right. I think that's what we have to lean into. I think the self-belief and the belief behind ourselves that we know what we're talking about. Right? Isn't that? That's important. That's important for me. Like,
to know what you're talking about.
yeah, well, important to remember that I know what I'm talking about, because I lose that a lot. I can sometimes be like, oh, well, perhaps I don't know enough, or actually I'm not good enough. But it's that constant going back to the self-sabotaging our own mind. So actually we're our own biggest critics sometimes. So perhaps more compassion and self-belief makes us go further.
Entrepreneurial world, and there's so much imposter syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
I hear it and see it all the time when I go networking. So many people, and it's a thing. Like, a lot of people have it, but actually, yeah, it's about having confidence, having belief, and trusting what you do, and I think that's part of the journey is to be confident. Like, when I was building the range, I took on the unit in November and started building it, and I wanted to open 1st of December. And I didn't, because it wasn't ready. It was ready, but in my mind, it wasn't ready. And
Okay, so you had done the work to make it ready.
yeah, but then I thought, I'll just build another little thing. I'll just do another little thing.
Okay.
And I was basically just putting off opening. And I got to the point like, I need to open, because I'm not making any money.
Mm-hmm.
I need to open. And it's just that, I've never run an X-ray place before. I didn't know whether it was going to work or, how it was going to go. One of my first customers was a guy who runs an X-ray range in Tamworth. He's shout out Coggy. He's like a pro, like a world champion axe thrower, and he rocks up to my place, and I'm there, and I'm about to teach him how to throw axes, and I'm like, this is one of my first customers, the first week in the opening. Talk about imposter syndrome. I've got a world champion coming into my place, and I'm going to show him how to throw axes, and I reckon it could be.
It's clearly on. We've got a battle going.
But that was the early days of me opening, and I opened. And you know what? I look back at the first few sessions that I did, and the sessions that I do now, I am phenomenally better than back then. And even then, my own worst critic, I'd be like, it was like a 7 out of 10. But the customers would be going away going, that was phenomenal. That was a 10 out of 10. That was 11 out of 10. But we are often our own worst or best critics, self-critical. But I genuinely know now, I did a group of 12 last night for work to do. I know they all had a phenomenal time, and I walked away from there knowing that I am good at this. But it's 2 years. You have to just practice. You have to get good. I know I see on your Instagram and obviously your podcast, you're great at presenting. A lot of people say to me, you're so comfortable, so natural on the camera. It's like, yeah, but if you watched the first Facebook Live I did 15 years ago, I was terrible. And it's like anything, you need practice to get good, and you need to be bad and take feedback and get, criticism, constructive criticism. And then you have to keep going to get better and better. You'll never get better at anything if you either give up or you don't start. So.
And I think then with neurodivergence, it's not that we don't want to achieve and accomplish, or, we absolutely know that we can get there, that we can be successful. But sometimes the self-critic in ourselves and the feeling of just not being good enough, or the challenges that we genuinely have from being neurodivergent, can make things a lot harder. It doesn't mean that we can't get there, but sometimes if there's extra tools not in place to support us, then that stops us from being able to get there. Because sometimes it's not just willpower. It's not just, well, if we just do this, we can do it. Because actually sometimes there's a lot of systems working against us. Doesn't mean that we can't do it. It just means that there needs to be more support in place. I think there needs to be more support in place to help people in general that are wanting to go self-employed, that are, that do have the great ideas behind them. Because actually there's not a lot of help in place for that at the moment either. There's not a lot of things in place. So,
No, it's been an absolute godsend that wouldn't have been around 5 or 10 years ago, and that is AI. AI has been so helpful to me, just from like having a team of people around me. I can utilize it if I ask it the right questions, and I'm obviously always checking it. But I can utilize it to be a little bit salesy, or a little bit legal, or a little bit, risk assessment-y, or what, then little elements of what you'd normally have a team, but you can't afford a team in the early part of your business. I found that very helpful, actually, and that wouldn't have been, it makes me think, God, if you'd have set up, it's so easy in the modern day and age now, typically, to set up a business, because everything is on there. It's all online. It's all quick. It's all easy. It's, obviously not for people that might struggle with forms or some of that. But I mean, in general, compared to 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago, it's a lot easier to start a business now, which might be why there's more entrepreneurs around. However, what was really interesting, and I watched your last video, I'm not sure if it was TikTok or Instagram, but I didn't realize the levels of neurodivergence with how difficult some things can be for some people. And where I can relate to some of it when I've listened to some of your stories, like, oh my God, that must be so difficult. And then I do think about some things that I've experienced, like even like only like a week or two ago, I had a real block, and I'm not sure what this was, but my list of things to do was so overwhelming. I got nothing done for like 2 days, and I had a little bit of a meltdown. And then after I pushed through, and I know you mentioned before procrastination, but also last minute. Like I've always been a last minute type of person. When I finally got through and did these things that had to be done, the weight off my shoulders was phenomenal.
Yeah.
But I'd lost like 2 days of stressing about it and having a meltdown about it.
And sometimes it's really small things. It's something like tiny. And then when you've done it, you're like, oh, for fuck's sake, like that would have taken me like 2 minutes to do, and I put that off. Right.
I'll give you an example, but one's happened today where I literally nearly lost my shit.
Oh my God.
So I needed to order a number plate. I got a mobile trailer car, right? So mobile app, sorry. Needed to get the number plate. I had to order it by 2 to get it here for tomorrow. I needed it tomorrow. And it wouldn't work online. And there was lots of distractions in the room.
Yep.
Got some noise going on. I needed to focus, right? And the payment goes through 3 times, but I couldn't put my details in. And then there's just quandary about the vehicle in my registration or it's in the business name. And I'm having this panic. I take myself to a quieter area. I'm ready to just put my laptop in the bin and do that.
Yeah.
And then actually what's happened is I've caught my breath. I've drove down to Halfords. I bought it. They've given it been 5 minutes and it's done. It's the simplest task. I've just gone to see a person in real life, talk to a person, explain to them the van is in the business name, my address is, and my driver's license is my name. That was all it took, just a physical person to be able to show that to. They did it in 5 minutes. It was a 5-minute job. But I'd gone through this other version of trying to do that. And that's one task, just get a number plate for a trailer. But when you run your own business, you have loads of things like that. And sometimes, you have to, for example, learning from that for me now, it's like if I'm ever going to do something like that, I need to be in a room by myself where it's quiet so I can absolutely focus, because my ears do listen to everything.
Yeah.
So be careful if you're in a room with me ever at far away. So I'm still listening to your conversation. If I'm chatting with you now, I'm still listening to Dave over there slagging off his wife. So yeah, so things like that, is that more neurodivergent or is that just big ears? What is that?
What, being distracted by?
And listening to everything that's going on and hearing 5 conversations at once. That's the voices, isn't it? Oh God.
That's just the voices in your head. I think that's something completely different entirely. Yes, I mean, when we look at autism, we know that senses are extremely heightened in some people. That's something that I can find a challenge too, but we all are different levels. Like you said about neurodivergence, you didn't realize there were so many different levels. It's a spectrum for a reason. It's not a linear spectrum. We look at it more as like a web, because we are all different. Kind of all of our experiences are so different, and the levels that we experience, the difficulty and challenges and things are so different. So whereas you might be distracted in a room full of people, somebody else might actually be okay, but they might still be neurodivergent, so.
What about the person that was chewing and making a load of noise?
Yeah, well, some things obviously trigger more people, like.
Well, I just assume, because I've Googled that, because I hate it when people chew or breathe.
Yeah.
Like that.
You hate when people breathe?
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is like misophonia almost. But then actually, I'm like, well, actually, no, it might just be something to do with autism. I don't know. There's so many things that go on. You can't label them all.
And we can't sit there and explore every single thing if it's not going to have a benefit for us to know that. I think sometimes looking at the things that we find most challenging in the moments that really affect us is perhaps the starting point. Just starting with 3 simple tasks, and even starting with making changes that are going to improve our quality of life. Start with one thing, because often we see everything and we're automatically like, right, okay, well, everything is a priority. And so we don't know where to start. And because then we don't know where to start, we end up in this loop where we actually don't get anything done because we're so pent up and frustrated and overwhelmed by everything that's going on that we need to do, and list writing doesn't get us anywhere because we just keep writing the same lists and nothing gets done on the list because we still can't figure out what we should start on the list. Can't define anybody by saying that person has ADHD and so does that person, so they must be exactly the same. You can't say that just because people have the same condition that their experiences are exactly the same. Therefore, we can't say that if you are autistic or ADHD that, you know, you have this scale and that's it. You know, there is so many middle scales to that.
Tell me a story from the start, the bit in the middle, and the end.
I can't even remember.
Podcast.
I can't even remember what you said. My mind, it wandered.
I'm worried that this podcast doesn't really have a start, middle, and end.
No, it probably doesn't.
We've got a good thing.
But does it matter?
Neurodivergent. It matters to me. It matters to me.
Let me ask you this.
Okay.
I think you touched on it earlier, like what would an ADHD diagnosis, like understanding or having that, would that actually change anything for you if you did get a diagnosis? Is that going to change anything for you?
It's a good question. And the answer is I wouldn't know. I could guess at how that might affect things because, well, actually, I say that. I do recall a while back, they talking about some of the help you can get if you're an entrepreneur and you do have neurodivergence. You can get extra support with extra things for running your business. So it would help in that respect. It would help in, obviously, access to medications. Don't think I'd take them.
But you can get access to support without having a diagnosis. So like access to work as a self-employed person.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
1,000,000%. I don't actually know. Could you tell me if I was to get a diagnosis, how would that change my life?
I don't know if it would. I don't know. It didn't change my life like I thought it would, because actually a lot of the understanding of being neurodivergent for me came from self-research when I could find things. And when I couldn't find the support, it came from creating what I felt like I needed for other people. Now I have such a better understanding of myself. Don't get me wrong, like if medication is going to help you and support you, then absolutely diagnosis is the way to go. And how would you know without trying the medication? So how would you know without having a diagnosis to start with? Medication does support me. It does help me to an extent, not all the time. I'm a woman. We know that it doesn't work all the time for women, but there are more studies going on with that. So I don't know. I don't think diagnosis has to be the answer. But if you've struggled your whole life and you're in a really, really bad place and you feel like
I think
it's going to help you.
Yeah, comforting and the support if you're in a bad way about it. And I've been in a bad way about things. Yeah. And ultimately just changed everything. That's been my go-to. That might be a trait, but I've quit a job, that had been too stressful. I couldn't get time off, so I've just quit. I've sold my house. I've done huge things to change my circumstances. And I think that's because I like black and white, like a fresh, clean slate, start again. And that might be a trait. I don't know.
But is that because you're seeking right, if I start fresh, then everything's going to be okay. But actually, if we keep starting afresh, right, that's how I've always lived my life, thinking that, oh, that's going to make me happy, so I'm going to do this. I'm going to move here. I'm going to go on holiday here, or I'm going to change my job, and that's going to make me happy. And none of those things ever make me happy. I don't think that's spoken about enough. That actually, the support that we need to give ourselves, and this is anybody, not just neurodivergent people, it comes down to your well-being is about your physical and your mental health, not just one or the other. Without both and the environments around you supporting you, then you're never going to be at the capacity where you're going to have, the ability to have this kind of great life, this good understanding. Are we all just doomed? That's a little bit how I feel sometimes.
What was it like from your peers? Was it a case of like everyone, when you sort of told people, I don't think you shout about it and tell people, was it a case of, we always knew there was something a bit special about it? Or did people like, oh my God, how does that impact? Like, what was the response like? I said to all my mates now, I've got an official diagnosis of ADHD. They were like, yeah, you've always been a bit mentally demo. And that'd be it. That was just,
because it's people's lack of understanding themselves, because they have a theory about what it is from what they've read. But if you haven't actually educated yourself or truly have an understanding of what it is, you're just going to follow along with what's in the news, what everybody else tells you. So that's where it comes from, like, oh, everybody's a little bit ADHD, or oh, I'm a little bit ADHD. But actually,
But that's what I say, because I am a little bit.
I think we have to be careful to remember that people that are truly challenged by the traits that come with being neurodivergent, to the extent that it has such a detrimental impact on their day-to-day when unsupported, these people are the people fighting to be heard and be seen. And yes, in hindsight now, I've definitely had a friend or two say to me, like, yeah, like, growing up with you, Meta, very opinionated, and nobody else could get their opinion across because you were, it was either your way or no way. And I'm very black and white, and that's because that's how I'd always viewed the world. And it's only in the most recent years where I've really tried so hard to kind of have a bit more of a open viewpoint of what other people say and think too, and allow them to express that as well. But actually, that's a real challenge that sits within autism as well. That kind of very black and white thought processes and needing things to stick the same and find change challenging.
Really wanted to cut into you. I was like, don't
let me.
Don't talk over the host. But this come up a lot for me when I was in a managerial role, and to manage people. And I used to get supervision from my manager. It was about, it's not always black and white. You've got to work in the grey.
Oh my God, I hate that more than anything.
And in my mind, I'm like, there is no grey. It is
right.
Black and white. And again, this was when I was managing for this, it was a good 10 years ago. Perhaps had a manager have gone, oh, Damian, it seems that there's this common thread with you. You keep being very black and white about everything. In fact, it's documented for the last 3 one-to-ones we've had. It's always come up about you needing to be a bit more grey. Then I thought, actually, you may have some, maybe you can get some support to see if you have diversion, maybe. But you know, times are changing. That was 10, 12 years ago.
No, but are they changing? Because I don't think they are.
I think things are changing though, and I see sometimes it's just about, it's a trend and it's ticking a box. So I would say over the last 3 or 4 or 5 years, there was a little wave of neurodivergent coaches, neurodivergent people helping out businesses, because I don't know whether it comes from the government or where it comes from, but all of a sudden it's like, it seems there has to be a bit more stuff in the workplace around neurodivergence. There was also like a bit of a push on wellness and stress and well-being and all that sort of stuff. And it's great. I get people come extra in because it's wellness month, you know, the work are paying for it. But you have those little things, but sometimes I think they're like tokens. Like, we better put that in to tick a box. And I don't feel like they're necessarily core values that are there in the business. They're just let add on, because the core value of a business is to make money, right? That's what someone set up a business to make money, unless it's a TIC or a charity. But ultimately, that's, you know, and I think these things come along, but
can anywhere ever be completely successful if they don't take it down to basics and start with the starting point of, it's not just ticking a box and saying, oh, right, well, we'll take them to this retreat, we'll do this with them. Actually, wellness and neurodivergent support and just being there for employees means taking the time to understand their needs and how they feel and what support they might need. That doesn't cost them anything. It might not cost anything to implement reasonable adjustments for somebody. Sometimes a reasonable adjustment can literally mean giving somebody 1, 2, 3 instructions, because actually perhaps that person can still meet the same level of expertise, maybe even better. They can really succeed in their role. But if the environment that they're in never adapts to support them, then there
are some cool trendy places to work. I used to go around some businesses in Oxford and stuff, and you'd see their lounge and their cafeteria and the pool, and they have all this, and they have special days and Doomsday days and all that. Like, stuff is getting better for workers, right?
But that still doesn't change the fundamentals of it. Just because you've got all of this extra stuff doesn't mean.
But I mean, in time, maybe it will be a case of, are you neurodivergent or not? And if you are, you get all this brilliant stuff that is specifically to help you do your stuff. And a company might be able to afford to do that.
But if companies can adapt their ways, and it doesn't mean adding all these extra things in, it just means changing the way of working to make it more well-being focus for everybody, perhaps companies would be more successful in themselves if they actually took a focus on that and just thought about the people working for them. You want to be successful, make sure that you are looking after your people. That's what it always goes down to. And that doesn't mean having a pool table, having all of this extra stuff. It just means listening to your people and making sure you move with the times. And that doesn't mean that, that we then exclude like one set of people just to make it inclusive for another. Neurodivergent support is by universal design supporting everybody. It's not just supporting one group of people. It's changing an environment to make it great for everybody. Not everybody needs reasonable adjustments depending on what the situation is, how greatly they are impacted. But that also perhaps it goes down to, well, if I am neurodivergent and I am so greatly impacted, I have a passion in this, perhaps I need to look at a space that is adaptable for me, that will work with me, and perhaps focusing on that. Because actually, if I know that I'm going to be really happy in this space and that they do have the ability to understand and work with me, and it's what I'm passionate about, well, I'm probably going to be more likely to succeed because I am passionate in it. I'm more likely to hyper focus in it and, be able to find that kind of motivation to crack on. And where I am struggling, I know that they have the places and, the things to support me. So sometimes I guess it does come down to the environment that you're going into, making sure you run. As neurodivergent people, we have responsibility ourselves as well to, yes, we have a disability, but that doesn't stop us from succeeding. That's the important thing. We mustn't fall into this feeling of, oh, we can't achieve, we can't do that because we're neurodivergent. We can't do that. We shouldn't limit ourselves. I personally feel we shouldn't limit ourselves to, well, then I'm never going to succeed, or I can't do this, I can't do that, just because we have this disability. And that's the same for anything. I think people feel that way. So if we lean into the, I can't do that, then, well, that's why people might get frustrated or might not be able to accommodate. But actually, in those situations, we need to lean into our strengths. And if axe throwing is a passion of ours and our strength, then perhaps the reasonable adjustments we might require might actually be something that benefits you anyway.
I think ultimately, especially if you get a team of people, you'd want to have, creative people are likely to have more of these traits. So you need a good blend of a bit of everything. And also, I do think there are some certain jobs where, certain traits would suit better. For example, being on the conveyor belt, just doing the same boring, monotonous thing all the time. You couldn't have somebody that was creative in that role because they'd hate it. But you could have somebody that was just very quite happy just doing that. So I think that there's a place for everybody, and you just got to fit. It's like a jigsaw puzzle. We're just trying to get the right people in the right places to do the right thing.
So I just think you're always going to be less likely to succeed if you haven't been supported with what you needed to make things better for you to start with, to give you that better quality of life. If you're a neurodivergent person and you are undiagnosed and really struggling, you might keep going back into the same environments because you haven't understood yourself. You don't know what your challenges, what your triggers are, what doesn't work for you and what does, because we are not all the same. We all have different strengths. We all have different challenges. But we need to understand ourselves. Everybody needs to understand themselves to then figure out what works for me and what doesn't work for me. And then that puts us in the space where we're able to look for somewhere to work that is going to benefit us, that isn't going to hinder us or hinder that workplace as well. So actually, I think it all comes down to people starting to get rid of this feeling of being so afraid of having a label and actually saying, fuck it, I want to be successful. I'm determined to help myself. There are places available for me to go and get a better understanding of myself. And if that support's going to help me, then why not go and do it? I'd love to know what is stopping people. We are the adult workforce that never got recognized because we masked so well growing up that, we looked like we didn't have any challenges. Although we were challenged and it was picked up, it wasn't picked up in a way that people would know it was neurodivergence. It was just picked up as, oh, they're a shy child or they are quite challenged, but they're not like they don't look like they need any help. So therefore, well, let's just leave it at that. We'll see how they get on board. Probably just went off on a massive tangent because I'm known for that. But
Interestingly, you said it twice actually about the person being successful.
Mhm.
And ultimately, as an employer, you want your employees to be successful. You want them to be good at what they're doing. So, help them to do that.
Right.
And also, I think what's really significant, it's easy forgotten about, you've mentioned about it being a disability. And I think that level, I think people, when they talk, flippantly about it, oh, I've got a bit of ADHD, you would never say, oh, I've got a bit of a disability.
Yeah.
I think it makes people realise the severity of the neurodivergent for some people is at the same level of being, disabled. It is making things much more difficult. And that's quite significant just in the language and the conversation. It's I have this journey I've got to pick someone, I've got to employ someone soon to help me out. And I probably can't even discriminate and just pick someone with a beard anymore. I probably have to follow some rules. I need to look into it, but ideally I need someone with a beard or plaits, blonde hair and plaits. That's a Viking look.
Okay. Yeah.
Interesting. I've got
so let me know what my interview
I've got all
then.
that. Would you like any adjustments with the interview application form to make it easier for you? Would you like some grey areas on the form?
No, can I just have it simply
Just
1,
black
2,
and white.
3? Yeah. And then can I work at like 10 p.m. at night? Because I think that's when my brain is working.
That's when we do axe throwing at night.
Night shift
the
axe
mobile
throwing.
trailer.
I mean, I am Danish, obviously, so axe throwing
Get
was
in the jeans.
Viking.
Yeah, I will consider your application
Thank you so much
when it comes in.
Okay, so thank you for being so open about your journey and discussing with us how you feel and kind of what you've been through. I think that a lot of people can relate to that, and hopefully a lot of people listening can feel of that. There's a lot of opportunities out there, and it's not just them, right? Because sometimes a lot of people feel like it is just them.
If you have related to any of these conversations, or you thought that sounded a little bit like me, get in touch with Meta, because this is what happened. You told me your story. I was like, oh wow, and now I've learned so much just in the last couple of weeks of having met you and looked into the ADHD Creative CIC.
Yeah. Our Life Lounge sessions, understanding your neurodivergence, is there to support people like you, people that are, adults, working age adults that are finding life a real challenge, that perhaps are exploring neurodivergence and just want a better understanding of it. You don't need a diagnosis. You don't need, anything. It's not going to give you a label. It's just going to give you that better understanding of yourselves. And it's accessible because it's in the evenings. So people can actually come to it. Okay, well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. Before you go, I want to ask you my signature question, which is, your life is a country song. What would the title be?
An actual country song.
And you make up like,
yeah, because I knew this was coming, right? And then I listened to one of your other ones, and I'm like, you didn't actually say an actual song. And I've been listening to some country, and I'm like, I'm going to give her an actual country song that I listened to. And now I've realised I can't do that.
Yeah, no.
I'm a bit of a stickler for the rules.
Oh,
so
it's
not
your life. No, so your life is a country song. What would the title be of that country song?
Messy Moonshine.
There you go.
I haven't finished yet. Messy Moonshine, Trials and Tribulations, Viking Bearded axe throwing, Sensation, Love It All Rogue.
Okay, great. That's a really long country song, but
it's an album.
But we'll go with it.
We'll go platinum as a B-side. If you want to go axe throwing,
yes,
check out Instagram at Damo4Show, and also TBV, that stands for The Bearded Viking, axemasters.com, the Bearded Viking axemasters.com.
I was going to ask you, how can people get hold of you?
I thought you were going to forget, so I thought I'd drop in, because I know you're not more starting with an M kind of girl. Damo for Show. Coming to us through near you.
We'll be hosting our first fundraiser, Unmasquerade, on the 21st of November at the Brampton Holt Pub in Northampton. It's going to be an epic night of music, surprise entertainment, and a raffle with some amazing prizes up for grabs. So head on over to our webpage at www.mensawellbeing.com to find out more, or check out our socials. Thank you for listening to Have You Meta? New episodes drop every week on YouTube at the ADHD Creative Hub. Like, comment, and subscribe. See you next week. We're based out of the Mensa Wellbeing Group, Northamptonshire's Centre for Neurodivergent Wellbeing. Check out our website for our services, upcoming events, and space hire.
Have you met her?